Hey, welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is July 1st, 2022. This is episode 589 of Living Free in Tennessee, and I'm recording live today. I'm getting extra glasses glare on the video. That's kind of cool. I think that's because clouds have covered the sun and it's a little darker outside, so we just have the light from inside. One of these days I'll get the backlighting figured out so my glasses don't get you computer glare. But until then, you're going to have to deal with you can't see my eyes. That is what it is. Today is a homestead happenings day, a homestead update for the Holler Homestead. We've started doing these once a week, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from folks who are interested in hearing about what day-to-day on the homestead is like. So we'll keep them coming on Friday. I end up having a meeting with Tactical Redneck because he kind of goes through what's going on here too. So today I'm going to talk about drought, and then how hard it is to raise plants when it's dry. And then I'm going to talk about the impact of drought on wild edibles. And then we're going to talk about what the dirt is like for putting in fencing when it's droughty. And oh yeah, I'm going to talk about the chicken processing workshop, some other things. And then I'm going to go back to holy cow, it's hot and we're having a drought this year. That's basically all of what's on our mind right now. It's really funny. I write for a preparedness site. I've been doing an article a week, although I've missed a few weeks already, where they ask us one question about prepping. And this week's question is going to be about how to keep up with watering when it's droughty. So I think that's what's on everybody's mind if you're out living off the land. Anyway, that's going to happen. If you have comments or questions, good morning, Margot, just put them in the chat, guys. On YouTube is where I see them right now. We are also streaming on Float and Odyssey. I have not figured out a really efficient way by myself to keep up on the comments everywhere. That is what it is. I will get better at that because I'm pretty sure YouTube at some point is going to tell me to stop talking about butchering animals, and then we will be done with that platform and we'll be on other platforms. That's why you want to be on as many platforms as possible in the world of censorship that we live in. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Put the first couple words in all caps if you have questions as we go. I will star them. I will come back to them if they don't fit within the context of where I am when I see it. And kind of what happens with questions, guys, is sometimes as we're going, I've already moved on to a new topic, and then there's a lag time, and then you end up asking the question. I'm like, yeah, I could have built that in, but now it's 3 minutes ago, and we're on to the next topic. Okay, before I jump into our segments today, I do want to let you know we have a really killer workshop coming in Camden, Tennessee at the end of July. It's the 30th and 31st. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. You can arrive Friday in camp. Class starts at like 6:37 on Saturday morning. I know, super early. This is because at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, it's not super hot. And we're going to show you hands-on how to plan for and build a swale. And then it's going to be hot, and we're going to have lunch. And then we're going to go inside, and we're going to talk more on the theoretical side. Now, usually we would do theory and then hands-on, but because of how the weather works in July, we're going to do it the other way. It's going to be taught by Billy Bond and William Bond. I'm actually trying to see if Nick Ferguson can come up too, but we will see. I can't promise you him. And then on Sunday, we start again at 7 in the morning. There's breakfast before we start, by the way, and coffee, of course. I think I'm going to make cold brew this time, though, because it's that time of year. And I'll also have hot coffee because I like hot coffee, but I think people will be more into the cold brew for this one. So then we're going to do how to plan the planting and the plant communities on the swale. That is $197, includes breakfast and lunch and camping. If you have a camper, there's a place offsite that campers can go up to a certain number. And the tickets are available at selfreliancefestival.com. You just go there and I'll actually show the people on the thing. You go there, and up in the top, you see tickets. That's for Self-Reliance Festival. But if you click on workshops, that'll take you to a page that has the swale workshop. Click on that, and that is how you buy tickets. It has some more information on what we cover in the class. And anyway, if you want to get your ticket, definitely head over there and get it while you can. There's going to be a big, oh, look, you can see my social media. there's going to be a big push happening next week through Billy Bond's account. And at some point we fill up. So that's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. It's kind of nice to do an event that doesn't have as many moving parts as the typical event here, or the Self-Reliance Festival, which has gotten huge. It's nice to have something where it's like, here is the agenda. It's a single topic. We are going to have these meals at these times, and there's not a whole lot of hoo-ha around the rest of it. And yes, Margot, you're a hot coffee all day kind of girl. That's what after this, my reward for getting this live stream done is coffee. Okay, then I wanted to show everybody who's on the video. Look, I got a haircut. Oh, you probably can't tell. So I had 6 inches taken off my hair today. I went in and she was like, so 4 inches? And I was like, what do you think? And she's like, well, really, you want to go back to here? Because then I was like, whatever. I can spare up to 18 inches off my hair. So do what you got to do. So it was really great. I don't usually have great haircutting experiences. And what I did is I set an appointment. This is really cool. I got there early. I was probably 8 minutes early. Yeah, it looks fuller, Tori. That's because I don't have like the scragglies on the end weighting it down. Got there, and the lady who cut my hair, Cynthia, she wasn't busy, so she just had me sit right down. And my appointment was at 9. At 9:03, I walked out with my haircut, and I was like, "How much is it?" She's like, $10. I was like, "What?" So I gave her 15. But so it wasn't expensive. It took her less than 5 minutes to cut my hair. It's way better for somebody else to trim my hair because they can see where all the split ends are, and I'm super happy. And I know this has nothing to do with homesteading other than sometimes when you run a homestead, it's hard to get to town to do things like get your nails done or your haircut. And so anyway, I was super excited to get my haircut. Okay. Those are my 2 pre-show things. I have now girled out on everybody. With that, it's time for the first segment of a Homestead Friday update. And that is what? Forage. We're going to talk about what we're getting off the land. Milkweed is blooming. Milkweed cannot be eaten by sheep without causing them to get sick and or die. I've always known that milkweed existed. But I've never been super confident based on the pictures of milkweed on the internet and what milkweed, like the weeds at my house, because there are leaves with similar shapes, until it bloomed. And now I'm like, milkweed, milkweed, milkweed. And we've taken a really good look at how the stems are different than there are plants right next to milkweed that have the same shaped leaf that are not milkweed that sheep can eat. So I have a really good take on that, on what it looks like specifically. So that's been a new plant I learned this year. Beautiful flowers, by the way. It's like a pink puff. It's really cool. And then I showed Tactical. Like my dogs got out yesterday and he was driving to see him. And I was like, wait, stop the car. And he was like, what? And I said, open your window. And he's like, zzz. I said, see that plant? That's milkweed. And he was like, oh, and he gets out of the car and takes a whole bunch of pictures. So he knows what it looks like too. There's something different about seeing a plant online versus in real life that really nails it in for you when you start learning about plants. And that's why if you can go on a wild plant walk or something in your area that somebody's teaching, it's totally worth it. Because I mean, you probably know what plantain and some of these other things look like, but they'll be like, oh, and that's milkweed and that's this and that's that. And you can see it in person, you can touch it, you can smell it, lots of different ways to identify plants. In addition to that, we have dry grass. It's dry. You know why it's dry? Because there's a drought. We have dry mint. It's dry. You know why it's dry? Because we have a drought. We have dry bergamot, which is bee balm. You know why it's dry? Because we have a drought. You know what makes a drought? No rain. So last week when it rained, it didn't really rain. I was like, yes, it's raining. And then it was like, it just got the pavement wet, which is meaningless. It did not break the hydrophobic nature of our soil here. It is dry. And in case I haven't mentioned it yet in the podcast, we're in the middle of the drought and it's dry here. Anyway, the other thing that's happening is we're getting seeds. So plantain seeds. And then in the garden, things are doing well. I've actually changed this week to talk more about gardening stuff in the grow section, just because we're starting to get some cool stuff in the garden. And you know what I have? I have sprinklers. Therefore, I have a garden. I was online the other day and people were complaining about how their gardens are doing this year. And somebody finally piped up with like, this is a really hard year to grow vegetables because it's droughty, and growing vegetables in unusually early heat when it's super dry is really challenging. So if you're getting any production out of your garden right now, pat yourself on the back, man. It's also really hard in a really wet year for opposite reasons, but pat yourself on the back. If it's not as lush as you hoped it would be, that is what it is, right? But you're getting something in a year where it's hard to get anything. And that's important to keep in mind. And that's sort of the nature of growing food, right? Some years the weather is perfect and you're like, I wish it was this way every year. And then other years you end up really fighting for one kind of plant or another kind of plant. And other years are like this year where it's just like, please rain. We'll talk about more about the rain cycle when we get to gardening. And you may be sick of hearing about a drought, but I have something different to say about drought in that section. Okay, next segment is livestock. It's where we talk about the animals. So we have added 2 does to the rabbitry. We lost a doe last week. I was at the farmer's market getting, what was I getting? Oh yeah. So I totally scored all of this broccoli that was left in the field because it was going to bolt. And that same farmer has rabbits. So I got 2 does from him, and they're like really cute and this big, and they're not ready to, breed or anything, but they will be. And then we're going to try to breed our doe, but it's a little hot for breeding to take. Luckily, Nighthawk has baby rabbits. So we may do some doe trading around based on what genders he has up there, just to get the genetics diverse. So the rabbits are doing okay. I think the best benefit I'm getting from rabbits right now is rabbit manure. And we are not getting a lot of rabbit food. And it is my aim this year to be more involved with the rabbits. It's been tactical things, but he's also been taking care of all the animals. I think if I pay more attention to that and kind of keep it on a schedule, it may be something that while he's learning sheep, I'm doing rabbit, we may have better success. And that's why we always say add one animal at a time. And we added rabbits last year, but we've never really gotten the rabbit rhythm right here. So that's just something that needs improvement. It's really funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, I was told rabbits were easy, and they're not hard, but I haven't been terribly successful with them either. So just from a reproduction standpoint, like mostly keeping them alive has been okay. Although we lost one for no particular reason. Don't know why. She just dropped dead. I probably should have autopsied her to see what that was. Sheep are inching closer and closer to the barn field, and that's going really well. We haven't had any more incidents of indigestion in sheep. We've been pretty careful about pre-screening pasture for poison hemlock. And now that we're confident about what milkweed looks like, milkweed and a whole bunch of other things that we don't necessarily want them eating, they will eat the heck out of some poison ivy, guys. And it's pretty cool to watch. They're doing great. I want to fatten them up a little bit. And then we bought a batch of hay for the winter already. So we found local Timothy hay, and I bought a truckload of that, and we put it in the hay loft in the barn so that we have something going into the winter, because when it is dry like it is right now, there may not be a second cutting this year. And so buying from the first cutting is a good idea, because what happens if there's not a second cutting, it also could all turn around. If it starts raining this summer, then there will be a second cutting for sure here, because grass just like booms right back. If there's not a second cutting and hay is scarce, then it like doubles in price in the fall. And I've seen it happen. And people end up running out of hay and having to get creative. So I just thought, let's get 21 bales for the winter, and we'll keep buying hay as we need it for now. Just because we're kind of augmenting their food with a little bit of hay. I think with the drought, if we're not growing grass as well, we may have to start hitting the hay earlier too. So fingers crossed for some rain, guys. Let's go do a rain dance. The other thing that Tactical asked me to share with you about the sheep, and this goes to the people that we bought the sheep from. He just wants you to know that Henry's an asshole. Yep. That's all I heard this morning. I heard the door open and I said, hey, what's up? And he goes, in a grumpy voice, "You put things away." And he closed the door. He did not slam the door. And I was like, I'm going to keep, doing what I'm doing, and I'll just go out and check, make sure there's not a problem. He walked off with a dog leash. I was like, dog leash. So I went up and like, no, the goats are still in. Sheep look like they're in. And he walked down. And I was like, so are the sheep getting out? And he's like, Henry's an asshole. It turns out what's going on is Henry keeps jumping over the fence. So he wanted to string a piece of 550 cord higher up so that it would be a visual barrier and Henry would stop jumping out of the fence. And he couldn't find it. And he was like, it's been in the same place since Self-Reliance Festival. And then you put it away. I'm like, yes, I put it with the sheep stuff so that it would all the sheep stuff would be on the sheep shelf. But anyway, he wasn't actually mad at me. He was just frustrated because he couldn't find the thing he wanted. And he was irritated that Henry kept getting out because I think he kept putting Henry in, which is why I think the leash was needed. So anyway, apparently we leash our sheep, just for the record. That's just normal hijinks, guys. Animals get out and, over time you get better at keeping animals contained, but there's a reason Henry's getting out, and it's probably because he's ready to move on to the next paddock. And Tactical's like, but I want you to eat this paddock a little bit more. And Henry's like, but what I see over there is privet, and I like privet, so I'm gonna go get that privet because privet's tasty. That's basically, I'm sure, what's going on right now. We have a Muscovy ducks that we bought from Lisa Davis, who is on our Telegram group. They're doing great. I clipped their wings when they got here so they couldn't fly off, and I still have a scar on my wrist from being scratched by one. If you ever clip, oh, maybe I don't. Yeah, I sort of do. You actually can't see it so much anymore. Wow, guys, it healed. And it no longer looks like I was trying to slip my wrist. That's kind of nice. I kind of looked like I tried to commit suicide for like the last 3-4 weeks. Clipped their wings, and I learned that important lesson, or relearned the important lesson, that when you're dealing with ducks, they have really sharp claws and they'll scratch you. It's a good thing they didn't go super deep and like open up my artery or anything. But then I ran up the hill and put on a flannel shirt, so my wrists were more protected. And it is something I bring up because there have been homesteaders who have passed away because they didn't have a way to stop the bleeding. So they didn't have a tourniquet in their pocket or something. They were alone. They were getting their rabbits out of their cage like they do every single day, and the nails just happened to hit an artery and they didn't know what to do. So this isn't a big caution about how dangerous homesteading is, but it would be helpful if you know what to do if your artery gets cut by an animal like that, because even without a tourniquet, you can live. There's lots of things you can do to slow down the blood flow, because you can bleed out in, like 2 minutes. But there's a lot you can do, and it's worth learning what that looks like. 30-day review says, damn killer rabbits. I mean, they're not intending to kill you, but it can happen. Tusks hitting you in the leg of a sheep, not of a sheep, of a pig. If you have pigs, those tusks are sharp. Like, there's stuff that can just happen. And basic, like more advanced, not basic first aid, but more advanced first aid is really worth, a stop the bleed class is actually, I had no idea how awesome it would be to learn about stopping bleeding until I took the class, and I realized all of the weird flukish things that can happen that probably won't, but now I know what to do even if I don't have a tourniquet in my pocket. Also, it's really easy to put a tourniquet in your pocket, just saying. We are having some issues with snapping turtles, so I have a beautiful spring fed pond. Somebody asked on Facebook what the best chicken water is. A spring fed pond is the best chicken water, in my opinion. It never runs out of water. The water stays clean. I didn't answer that because that's not what they meant when they asked that question, though. So Lone Star says Refuge Medical has a great stop the bleed class. Yeah, I took the tactical response class. I interviewed somebody, I think, who also hooks people up with It's really easy to get one of these classes, and they're totally worth it. But we were down at, like, one duck didn't come home. And so we started looking for a nest around the pond and found her body with her head removed, and a snapping turtle nearby. And so the snapping turtle had to die. And then there was another snapping turtle. So we're dealing with that. Usually snapping turtles don't live in colonies, though. So hopefully we're past that. But that is something, if you're letting your ducks free range and you live in a part of the world where there are snapping turtles, they will Snapping turtles will kill your ducks if they get big enough. And it's just one more predator you have to think about. And we've lost 2 ducks this year to snapping turtles, and we have eliminated 3 from the property. So just keeping our eyes out for those. The goats are not earning their keep right now, so I have to think about what that means. And then today is all about chicken processing class preparation. We lost 2 chickens last night. One got too hot and we didn't notice. Last time one got too hot, we put some ice in there and it helped. And I guess it was really hot yesterday. And the other one, we have like their waters, but we also have cement mixing trays for waters. One apparently got in there, flipped it over on top of itself, and scared itself to death. So this can happen with chickens, and it's a bummer because we've basically taken 40 chickens through without a single death until one day before we're processing. We lost 2 birds. So now we have 38 birds. I will say statistically, on average, I have had 38 birds when I start with 40 birds by the end of the cycle. However, later today, when I talk to you about homestead finance, I just realized my math is now wrong about what they cost to raise. So we will have to change that number. Change by 75 cents a bird. I just did the math on my phone. That's what's up with the livestock. Dogs are doing great. Cats are doing great. Everybody's pretty healthy considering that it's super dry. And I'm very, very thankful that we have a spring here that does not go dry in drought seasons, because that water source is super important right now. Next segment is grow. This is where we talk about how things are growing in the garden. I would say without sprinklers right now and the hydroponic system and the aquaponic system, I would be having a big problem this year. You know why? I know you know why. It's because it's a drought year. Yep. And this is my 3rd big drought year in Tennessee in 15 years. So about every 5 years, we have a year like this where it's a wet spring. And then it's like somebody turned the faucet off and that's it. And then it gets hot early. And then we have Independence Day coming this weekend. And for Independence Day, a lot of the marinas in the area fire off fireworks. You know what's happening this year? No fireworks. You know why? Because we don't want a forest fire. So there have been fireworks bans or recommendations not to catch like the whole area is a giant tinderbox right now. And the only reason I have vegetables coming out of my garden is because a couple times a week the sprinklers go on and do a deep soak. And I have it set at twice a week right now. It may need more, but I am hesitant to get my plants used to being watered every day, because then you just end up with super weak plants. So I have just resigned myself to it's going twice a week, and I may lose some plants at the result of this. And that's better than having all of the plants be weak because they're used to a shallow watering at their roots. That being said, the funny thing that's happening in the forecast next, and we'll see if this endures, because the rain forecast can totally change on a like butterfly wings happen and it moves to the north. We have rain in the forecast. We have the same rain in the forecast that happens every year around the first week of July. And here's what happens. It rains every single flippin' day, setting the foundation for late blight. So the tomatoes get wet and they don't like it, and then they never get a chance to fully dry out. And the next thing that happens is blight comes and wipes out my tomatoes by mid-August. And I looked at the forecast and it was like rain, rain. I was like, oh, it's blight week. Blight week is upon us. If that happens, it happens. I usually get a good amount of tomatoes no matter what, because I start them early. And that means that other plants that really want water will be happy. And if it gets my tomatoes, it gets my tomatoes. This year, I'm experimenting with having planted aspirin with the tomatoes under the hopes it'll make them stronger against the blight. I've ripped out any plant that showed any sign of blight, and we'll see. The ones in the soil are more likely to get it than the ones in front of my house. I'll keep you guys posted on how that goes. Also, coming out of the garden this week was garlic. I've got beets. I've got 2 carrots. I planted a whole row of carrots. I got 2 that actually turned into carrots. So I'm kind of excited about that because I usually don't get any. Carrots are one of those things I plant every year where I'm like, you're not going to live, but whatever. A packet of seeds is, well, right now it's free because that's another thing I'll talk about. So we have carrots, and then my first cucumber is ready to be harvested today. It was like 2.5 inches long yesterday. I could have harvested it yesterday and put it in a jar of pickles, except for there was only one. So we're going to start getting a bunch of cucumbers now, unless I get a pest infestation, in which case we'll have them, and then the pests come, and then the cucumber plants are gone. And this is what it means for me to be an organic gardener. I don't do a lot of the pest prevention. I'll hand pick squash beetle eggs off of leaves if I have time. And I'll do like a foliar spray with Dawn dish soap and some other stuff, but nothing. I don't like to put the chemicals on the plants. And what I'm trying to do with my system here is get it so that, yes, if the pests come, the plants die. And then hopefully having all of those pests attracts predator critters to eat the ones who eat my plants. And over time, we establish a balance, right? So that it is. And Margaret says, this is your first year with Taj Mahal. Yeah, I think Taj Mahal is going to make a difference on the tomatoes here just because they're not getting rained on. We will see. Time will tell. So far, I don't have signs of early blight, although I have a different leaf problem that is because different ones of us have been maintaining the balance of the water, nutrients in the water, and I think they got over nutriented once, and it made their leaves yellow in some places, but it's not blight. And I have put aspirin in that system too. We still don't have green beans. I have a green bean this long, and for those of you on the audio, that is 1 inch. So soon. And if it would just rain, they'll actually explode is what'll happen. In fact, I'm probably going to plant more green beans next to the other green beans that are bush beans because there's room, and I'm pulling out the beets and I'm pulling out the carrots. So there's room for more. Under the hopes that we really do get a rainy cycle, it's cool enough for them to germinate, and I get green beans now, and then I get a second set of green beans in mid-August, assuming they make it through whatever Tennessee throws at us weather-wise. This has been my best dill year ever. I have dill up to my chest in the dill area, the place where I have dreamed of having a dill patch. I have a dream. I shall have a dill patch that reseeds itself every year, and I get all the dill I could ever want with which to make pickles. That's my dream. And I've tried for 15 years. And this year I finally I'm looking at it out my window from my office right now, giant dill shrub. And I haven't harvested any of it because I'm like, if I just leave you here, will you seed yourself? And then you'll be like a super dill plant that seeds itself. So we'll see. I may put a tomato cage on it because it keeps leaning over towards my banana tree, and that's not cool. And then I just wanted to point out something that I pointed out earlier, that rabbit poop is magic. If you don't have rabbits and you have a garden, find somebody who has rabbits, because adding the poop to my gardens, I've always been good with adding manure to my gardens, guys. Rabbit poop is better than any other poop I've ever added. And hey, Michael, thank you for the super chat. I'm glad you love these updates. I appreciate it too. It's actually kind of fun because I never realized how much variety we have on the homestead until I started doing this once a week. And I'm like, I actually have something to say about the homestead once a week. That's crazy. So thanks for the super chat. Really helps. Next segment is Holler Neighbors and Community. I know last week we talked about how Jenny is moving out of base camp, and now there's an opening, and we're hoping to find the right person for base camp. Nobody has reached out who we know. And one of the things about becoming, quote, a Holler neighbor or into this community is we end up wanting to know you a little better than just having met you on the internet before having somebody move here. Because that's like, I mean, nobody's dating anybody here, but we're close and we do things together, and we need to work through disagreements and happy times and deaths in the family. And oh my goodness, your dog got out and ate my duck, or, like any of these things that can just happen. Right. And so you have to have a certain level of trust and friendship for that to work. that's how we've set up the Holler community. So nobody has really reached out who we know who wants to be sort of a long-term Holler neighbor. And what I've decided to do is furnish base camp and rent it a month at a time to different people who are interested in checking it out. I will do it at one price for people in the community, which is going to be around $1,600 a month. It includes power, water, internet, the guy who comes and mows the yard, right? It's everything included because it's not really feasible to do utilities separately. And utilities are not an insignificant part of the expenses on that. It is going to be $2,400 if you are not in my network. So if you're interested in renting base camp, I'll be getting pictures out. I'm going to do it through Airbnb or VRBO or something like that. And you see it and you're like, whoa, that's $2,400. But she said it was going to be $1,600. By the way, the $1,600 mark will shift a little bit based on property taxes and actual utilities once we get into it and understand what it really costs us. What you need to do on Airbnb, if you reach out to me there, is say, hey, I listened to your podcast. Can we make a deal? And then I can counter offer with a lower amount. And I'll give you the $1,600, or you can reach out to me on the side, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. If you want to rent it for less than a month, we need to talk about that just to figure it out. I will probably do some shorter term rentals once I get the people locked in on their month that they want to be here. I have a couple people who've already signed up for this. So we're going to just, mark things on the calendar. Like April next year is already booked, for example. So mark things on the calendar, work it all out. And then I am going to be hiring a cleaning crew to clean in between. People who are here for a month who don't like to clean house can totally hire a cleaning crew as well. I'm looking for one right now. If you're in my area and you are a cleaning crew, you should totally reach out to me, because while I can clean the house and I will clean the house on an Airbnb, I'm very good at it. I'm not always here. And so when I know from when I ran an Airbnb before that, like sometimes I got to clean, but if I can get a good cleaning crew, that works. So that's what's happening with the community. And it's a difficult transition for us because, it's bittersweet. We're excited for Jenny, but we're going to miss Jenny. And she's excited for herself, but she's going to miss us. But, this happens in families all the time, that people get opportunities and go away. And hopefully at some point she'll be able to buy her lot on that hill right over there that I still haven't been able to buy, but I really want to buy so that people can have like little 1 acre or 5 acre lots that they put whatever they want on, right? That is what it is. So, yeah. Okay. So that's what we plan to do with base camp. Next up, I'm going to talk about infrastructure, fencing in drought. Do you know what happens to our ground in drought? Do you know? Here's what happens. The ground becomes like concrete. So Tactical has to water the ground where the pole's going to post the step-in post is going to go to be able to step it in. And he has also developed a cinder block thing where he cuts the pointy part off the step-in post, and he screws it to a cinder block. Yeah, Christy says hard as bricks. Exactly. And based on that, he is able to just put them above ground. And because sheep are not goats, they're not testing that. So that does two things. That allows us to, keep the sheep going on rocky areas. And the second thing is that it allows us to also, if the clay just ain't working, he can still stretch fence and have reasonable amounts of posts for stretching the fence. So that's what's happening. And we are really close to having the perimeter fence fixed or finished. So my dog stops getting out, but my stupid dog got out again yesterday. And I was like, how much more fencing is needed? So we need a gate at my driveway and about 150 feet more fence. And I'm hoping we get that done soon, because one of these times she's going to run off and get hit by a car and I'm going to be super sad about it. And I don't want that. That's why for me, the perimeter fence, while it does keep people out, that's awesome, it also keeps the stupid dogs in, well, at least sometimes. We'll see. We are also talking about plans for Taj Mahal. So Taj Mahal was put up over my front yard, and it was like lawn, plantain, whatever grows in my hillside, and it because of the drought, it's now like dirt because everything died. And that's fine, except for here's what happens next. The rainy season comes. Like, for example, if next week the forecast is correct and we get tomato blight week, which is rain every day, first week of July equals tomato blight, then what will happen is it will become a mudslick. And then when it becomes a mudslick, people will walk over it, dogs will walk over it, and then they will walk into my house. And do you know what happens to my house when that happens? It becomes a mudslick. So last night I was like, I wanted to just put a cement pad in under here because that's, the easiest, right? It's not cheap, but it's not a tripping hazard. We don't have a lot of mud problems with the cement pad, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like starting to put money aside for that. And I was like, what if we just put stone out here? And Tactical was out there. He's like, I'd put pavers in because it would be more even. And I was like, okay, so when I said stone, I meant pavers, right? I didn't mean like go put rocks that do a hilly thing with your feet. Margo says a load of gravel. And then Tactical said, well, we could just dig down and put gravel, but I don't like walking on gravel barefoot. And if I'm going to put gravel in and then put something else in later, then I have to take the gravel back out. So at this point, unless it's thousands and thousands of dollars more to do something like pavers or something, with some sand in between, I think that's maybe what I'm going to do. Or I might go source some brick. People are throwing away and do brick, which would take a lot more time than bigger pavers. We'll see. But I need to start thinking about that because otherwise we're going to have a huge problem. And I could put wood chips in, but I don't know. I'm starting to think what I thought was next year's plan for my project, which was to put the flooring, I'm calling it flooring for Taj Mahal. What I'm gonna do is see if I can work it in somehow to the budget to get it done now, just to avoid the mess, because I really don't I hate mud being tracked into my house. I hate walking through mud. I hate walking through mud in my boots. And yes, shag carpet. Great idea, Siegler. Great idea. All the groovy kids are putting shag carpet outside. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be like a dog hair magnet or a mold magnet to do that. So we'll keep that one in mind. Anyway, those are the two infrastructure things we're working on. And then the last segment today is about finances. So as I mentioned, every year we've been raising meat birds. And on average each year, the cost of meat birds from beginning to end is $12 a bird about. And this is using the method that almost everybody starts with, which is you buy Cornish cross, you brood them, you tractor them, you bring feed in from outside. If you want soy-free feed, it's more expensive, and I do soy-free feed. And by the end of the whole thing, with power, cost of the birds to be shipped in, feed, and that's all the expenses I include, it's about $12 a bird. Except for now, it's 2022. And you're going to be shocked to hear this. The price went up. Yep, price went up. And this morning, I thought the price was $14 a bird. But then I was informed that 2 birds who we have gotten all the way to ready to on Saturday died. So now we have 38 birds. And so now the cost per bird is $14.75. That is not as bad as I thought it would be, because the feed almost doubled in cost. So I was expecting that the per bird cost, because the majority of the cost of the birds is not the birds, it's the feed. I thought it would go up more. But what happened is this particular set of birds ate less feed. So I didn't have to do a second thing of feed. That's kind of cool. But we are up, close near $3 a bird. And that means that to have pasture-raised bird using external inputs, soy-free food, in an as efficient a manner as possible, we're looking at the cost, not including labor, is $14 a bird. Somebody asked me, what does that mean you sell a bird for? I said between $25 and $30. It was $25 last year. I can eat the $3 in labor, or I can raise it up to, $28 a bird. It just depends. I think a lot of people go into this lifestyle because it's the cheaper way to get good food. And that is kind of true, because if I buy the quality of bird we're producing here on the retail market, it is going to be about $30 a bird in my area. But it's not going to rival the whatever $4.99. I don't even know if that even exists anymore, but the $4.99 chicken that you get at Walmart. Likewise, we had chicken from the commercial market as some of our staff meals at Self-Reliance Festival, and the thighs and legs were good. One of the meals had chicken breasts, so the white meat, and we ate it. It was okay. It didn't taste bad, but Mom was like, "This just doesn't as good as chicken at your house." And anyway, I was like, "Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why." Because the person who cooks the food he's a chef. He everything's delicious, and the spice mix was nice, and all of those things. Well, here's the deal. I forgot that white chicken meat from the store, white chicken meat from the store, tastes terrible. It tastes terrible. Well, it just doesn't taste. And I've gotten so used to pasture-raised birds here that taste like chicken. Chicken doesn't taste like chicken anymore. Michael says it's $6.99 at Walmart now. Okay, so it's up $2. Mine are up $3. So I'm tracking with Walmart a little bit. Yeah, I should feed my birds my toenails. Thanks for that suggestion, Mr. Siegler. Always appreciate it. So that's not too bad. I have been, so anybody who's at Self-Reliance Festival saw Billy Bond's Chicken Tractor on Steroid presentation about sourcing, food for your birds that is not food that you buy, and doing the deep compost method. And then you don't have to do as much augmented feed. We may try some of that on our next round. We are moving to creating our own hybrid meat birds here. We have a place for it now. We have not built the chicken coop for it yet. And I want to have a chicken coop that has 3 runs that can be used rather than free range the birds that we're using for meat bird creation, because chickens rip things up, and I don't want them ripping up my newly installed food forest with all the little plants starting to get established. So that way we can do, they tear up one run one year, and they'll be big runs, right? And then the next year they go to the next one, the next year they go to the next one, and we can look at if we want to plant behind them edibles, or if it's going to be fodder sorts of plants for them. I don't know. But that's going to happen. And then I'm looking more at sourcing food from restaurant surplus and that sort of thing, just to see if we can bring feed costs down. And, there is a lot of food thrown away right now. So why not use it for our livestock, right? I just have to make the contacts. And that means getting off my rear end and getting in my car and going and talking, right? Is what it is. That's the plans as we move forward. I hope you enjoyed this homestead update. I will stay on afterwards. If you have other questions, you want to talk about anything, just start throwing them in the comments in all caps so I can see that you have a question you want me to address. And also want to mention, if you want to support the show and the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. One, get your coffee at hollerroast.com. In fact, my phone has been on for this entire broadcast because at some point a pallet of green coffee beans is coming. In fact, I hear a truck down at the bottom of the hill, so they may not have called first, and there may be a pallet being delivered right now. Don't know. I just heard That's their loss. I would have met them at the dam and they didn't have to drive a semi truck up my road. Anybody who's been here knows what that's like. Anyway, that's one way you can support the show. The other way is to become a member. Just head over to livingfreeintennessee.com, click on membership and sign up. We had a really awesome, webinar last night just about running events. And I think I'm going to do another one about all the stupid errors I have made at events. So anyway, with that, guys, go out, make it a great week. Okay, I see questions on the live stream, and you guys get to watch me make a phone call because I kid you not, I just got a text message from somebody from the delivery person. So we will just do this live on the air. They told me between 11 and 5. So you can hear how this goes every time. And I see some questions here, so I'll start answering those right after this call. Woo! Except for they're not answering the call. The funny thing is my phone did not ring. They just texted me. But this is funny. Yes, I can mute, but this is my real life, guys. You're here watching my real life live. Did not answer. So I'm just going to say you did not answer. Did not answer. Okay, first question is, how far are you from town and restaurants? The nearest restaurant to me is not in town. It's a mile, and there's a marina right over there, and they seasonally have a marina. It's a restaurant. And then there's another one about 4 miles from here across the dam. That's a pretty good restaurant, actually. So if I want to go out to eat like on the weekends or something, I can totally do that. And that's cool. If I want to go to other restaurants like Chinese food or the Mexican place, that's 25-minute drive to 35-minute drive, depending which direction I go. And the stores, like a grocery store of any reasonable size, is 25 minutes. So this morning I got my hair cut. And the reason I did not start the live stream on time, because I left at 9:03. I could have been back by 9:30 to do this live stream. But I have a chicken processing workshop tomorrow. People like to have half and half or heavy whipping cream in their coffee. This time of year, what I have is raw milk. I don't have half and half, and then I freeze dry it, and I use that in the winter. Except for when we have guests, I do buy heavy whipping cream at the store so they can have that in their coffee. So I popped into the store, did that, and then I was on the way home, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to make a vet appointment for my dogs. So then I stopped at the vet, just did it in person because it's easier. Didn't get home till 9:45. So that is why we started. Will the free food be enough to offset prices of the gas to pick them up as well? Oh, you mean for augmenting? Yeah. Because if I set that up, so what Justin's asking is, if I get scraps from restaurants, won't it cost a lot to go pick it up? It would if I was doing the trip. I guess it would cost me $10 on a bad day to pick up food from restaurants here in gas. And if the only thing I was doing that day was picking up food from restaurants, then it's still $10 for a lot of food. It's not that bad when you figure that I paid $25 a bag for chicken feed this year. So the thing is, that's not what's going to happen. I drive to town once a week for a set of things, and I go to the farmer's market. And while I'm in town, I do errand. Like today, I got my hair cut, and I did 4 other things because I was in town. That's how I'll work that out. So about once a week, I end up in town anyway, and I will just time it to be when I can pick stuff up at restaurants too. If I find any willing to give me their scrap, like I'm hoping, like would be awesome, is if the Chinese place will give me their rice, because rice is a really good thing I can add. So yeah, what's your current cost per chicken? As I said, $14.75 with buying feed externally. And I think I can really push that down. I don't make enough food scraps here of any consequence, even when I'm canning. Like once or twice, there'll be a couple boxes of tomato scraps or something for the pigs, but I don't we eat most of what comes into the house. So I don't have like slop buckets of scrap coming out of my own kitchen. And that's something that I guess isn't true for everybody, but I like leftovers and I know how to repurpose them so it works. Anyway, pack rat. How are alerts supposed to show up? Technically, they're supposed to show up in the upper part of your screen, upper right of your screen. You'll get like a notification on the bell. So that ends up being how you see it. And sometimes it doesn't work. YouTube has been really fussy. I don't understand what you're asking there, David. You're going to have to, how much hair did you let them cut off? I was like, I didn't understand the question. They cut off 6 inches. So I went in thinking I was going to get 4 inches off. And she said, so 4 inches. And I was like, I don't know. What do you think? And she was like, your hair is scraggly up to this line and that's 6 inches. And I was like, fine, whatever. I can spare it. I can still put my hair in a bun on the top of my head. And it's actually kind of nice not to have the scraggly ends. Like when I braid it, they try to rebraid themselves and I have to undo it. So I'm kind of stoked to find, I haven't had a haircut in 2 years. So then today I had all my hairs cut, but the hair is still long. That's funny. That's a priority question. That was a big debate on the Telegram group. I was like, well, maybe I should just go bob, like just go short. And, maybe I'm sick of it. It's hot out. Like the worst time to get your long hair cut is when it's 97 degrees outside. Cause you're like, I've been kind of thinking a little spiky do would be nice right now because it's hot out there and long hair makes you hotter. So that is what it is. Any other questions, guys? I can talk about homestead stuff, preserving food, small business, like whatever you want. Last night I did a webinar on events. And at the end of it, some of the questions had nothing to do with events. It was more like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this with my business. How do I get the word out? Right. Questions like that, which is totally legitimate. We had time for questions. So I took it anyway, but I am not seeing questions come in. So I think we're at the end of the live stream, guys. Thanks for joining in this week. I'm going to go start getting ready for all the people showing up tomorrow for the chicken processing workshop. I still have to make coleslaw today. And then we're setting up all the cut tables and all the fun stuff out there. And it is 40,000 degrees outside. So it's going to be a little hot today. So I might go swimming later in the lake. Have a great weekend.